What's up, Trunk Slammers? It is Monday, Spicy Monday. I have a question today. If I went into one of the many dying, decaying, rotting malls that now dot our post-consumer apocalypse of our country, and I said, no one wants to shop anymore, retail is dead. Alternatively, if I went into the middle of the Mojave Desert and then I looked around me, turned in a circle and said, no one wants to ski anymore. Or what if I went to the puddle that is going to form in my lawn that we affectionately call Lake Lily when the snow melts, and I went out there with a fishing rod and I said, no one wants to fish anymore. In all of those cases, you would easily explain away how my very limited view and sample size of what is going on does not represent the whole. Obviously, people still want to shop and do retail. People obviously ski, and fishing is still an industry. I'm simply just not understanding some element. Things have changed, or in some way I'm looking in the wrong place. Right. Well, how does that apply to employment? Because I will tell you, friends, this idea that no one wants to work anymore, or I can't find good employees, or the kids these days, or whatever version of that we're going with, whenever that gets brought up, it gets explained away the same way you would explain away a dead mall, or my goofy examples of trying to fish in my grass or go skiing in the middle of a desert. You're basically saying that given the current context and the way things work, what you don't understand is things have changed, which of course they have. So what about the fact that we can go back since at least the 1890s and see on a decade-by-decade basis there have been major news headlines that almost literally surmise to no one wants to work anymore? Are you really going to look me in the eye and claim that the hiring market has changed so fundamentally decade by decade that keeps coming up, that we're that rapid of a society? Sure, at a point in time, the employment world is different from any other point in time, and that'll be part of my argument. But really, this is a problem that has existed since as long as we've had newspapers that we're able to go back to and people have had jobs. So given that we have 100+ years of evidence that show that a series of business owners have repeatedly said no one wants to work anymore, or this generation doesn't want to work, or whatever the version of that is that true that no one wants to work and your MSP can't find the right talent because remote work and the dang kids and the Zoomers and all that? Probably not. Probably not. What's far more likely is a problem that we've been seeing for over 100 years, which is that it's very, very hard to learn how to align yourself to the concept of hiring in alignment with employees. I would actually make the counter argument that this is probably one of the first decades in the entirety of human history where you as an employer have gone from being completely limited to the local sample population of humans who could basically reasonably commute to where your place of work was. And that reasonableness has changed over the last 100 years, sure, but you were limited very much geographically to where you were going to hire from, to now you can hire anybody from literally anywhere that has internet access. You could hire someone in outer space right now from the ISS to work at your MSP. There has never been a wider pool of talent than now. Because tech has become established as a real thing, which, if you need evidence, all of you, the industry I'm talking to, you exist because technology is an actual real thing now. Not only do you have access to almost the entire addressable population of employable humans on the planet, a lot of them want a job in this industry. Really, the deck has never been more stacked in your favor as an MSP owner or IT vendor or whatever it is you do in this space. But yet we still hear this excuse that I can't find good talent, to the point where it's one of my talk tracks that's getting picked a lot to go speak at conventions this year, because of how desperate people are to staff and retain talent. To further add weight to that, we have had multiple things happen in our industry in the last year around this. We've had entire vendors spin up to train your existing staff so that you can keep them. We've had massive shifts at CompTIA to try and realign with this. We have more recruiters in our space than we've ever had before. There are multiple companies that help train and teach adult learners to pivot to a career over here. We have an explosion of influencers on all the platforms trying to teach people how to, sometimes predatorily, how to get into a job in IT. There has never been this level, I would argue, in modern US history of awareness, demand, and availability in one particular category of employment ever. And yet you still can't hire somebody. Now, there's a whole myriad of reasons why you're running into challenges, and we're not going to solve them in a short video. And I'm going to be continuing to produce a series of content this year that hopefully will provide some of the reasons why you are struggling and give you some info. But today I did want to cover a couple of spicy bullet points quickly to at least get your gears turning in early 2025 on why your MSP is running into these challenges. Your namaste moment. You are not good at hiring. We all accept that. There's a whole list of stuff to fix, but I think the single biggest roadblock that prevents MSPs, especially MSPs that are at that small to medium size, the single blocker that I think affects that size MSP more than anything else, the burden of the level of person you're trying to hire is too high. You are all collectively over hiring. This industry has convinced itself over the last 30 years that there are some things that only a super experienced person with a lot of technical knowledge can do. And I'm not going to break down all of the reasons why. You need to lower your perception of the level of talent that you need to execute in the role. You are an MSP. If you need the most expensive people to run your business, you have fundamentally failed at the overall business value proposition of being an MSP. I mean, that's why all the automation and everything exists. That's our whole premise to our clients, is so they won't have to hire that person. Let us do it. And if you are simply shifting that where now you have to hire that person, that's just direct hiring with extra steps. And if you have set yourself up where the only people that can support your stack are people with 6+ years of Cisco knowledge and all of this bizarre, esoteric, high-level horseshit, you have failed already. And I say this first because that is probably 40% of the MSPs in our industry. You need to be self-reflective and lower the perception of the level of technical acumen of the person you need to hire. That might take you a year to go and change things to solve for that. That will have the single biggest impact. I think the next biggest challenge, which is far more straightforward, it's very easy for people in this space to work remotely, right? So therefore, we can employ remote workers a lot more easily than other industries. And quite simply, our industry just hasn't done a very good job strategically adapting to that. If you are going and posting on Indeed a remote job, if you post it anywhere in the United States, true remote, well, now you have unlocked 5 different time zones that you're hiring from with multiple different market sizes and different standards of living. You will now have to account for all of that in your job ad, which you're not going to do. Alternatively, if you anchor the remote job in a city that has demographics that align with what you need and a time zone that aligns with what you need, it's still remote, but you have strategically curated it to a population size that are most likely to fit your needs. Both options work, but you need to think about which one you're using. Anchoring it to your local municipality or your local home city probably is not a good idea if you're looking for remote employees. The next thing I think that is most significant to our industry that I see over and over again and has been one of the most interesting things I have observed over the last 15 years of my career here is the complete lack of awareness across our industry amongst owners and executives of the wider availability of interconnectedness of our industry. Where do you employees and potential employees hang out, folks? Are you going where the employees go? I mean, it's such a fundamental concept in any other kind of business. We go where the customers are. Well, employees in this case are your customers. Are you going where the employees are? And I know for a fact you're not, because your employees are doing stuff that, especially if you're a hiring manager, probably over the age of 45, you're writing off as nonsense. Go where your employees are. Your lack of awareness of where your employees go to socialize, engage, and look for jobs is not an excuse. That's not a them problem. That's a you problem. Learn where employees and prospective employees hang out. Learn where they socialize. Learn their culture. Learn their cadence. Learn their language, because you're going to find there are specific communities and places that you can directly recruit and hire from that will overcome a lot of the challenges that we've covered in this video. The next tip is one that gets written off a lot because it gets confused with the visceral reaction a lot of folks have, pro or con, around the idea of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's a very pragmatic concept that is often explained along with DEI that therefore gets thrown out with the bathwater. You are likely only hiring and attracting white men to work at your MSP. There's nothing wrong with that. But white men are only about 30% of the total candidate pool of people who can do a really good job MSPing for you. So what I am arguing here is not that you should implement a quota or try to forcibly hire to meet some sort of standard or social currency. You steer your own moral compass on those things. All I'm saying is if your job advertisement, your workplace, your culture, your benefits only appeal to 30% of a talent pool, and you're struggling to attract people from that desired 30%, common sense would say, what do I need to do to attract more of that 100%? And the good news is it is super easy to make those changes. Start at the job advertisement level. Simply go back and look at how they're worded and written. If, for example, you simply want to also allow female candidates who are qualified and capable and are good MSP techs to feel comfortable applying, you probably only need to tweak a couple sentences in your job advertisement and they will also start applying, and you will at least double your candidate pool right there simply by making a few word choices. Many studies have shown that men will apply to jobs that list a bunch of criteria where they only feel slightly qualified for them, whereas women generally will not apply to those jobs unless they feel super sure that you actually want them to apply for a job they may not be totally qualified for. And since I know most of you write your job advertisements with a bunch of random ass skills that no one is really qualified for, consider adding in a little bit of language that says something like, if you don't think you're fully qualified, apply anyways, because we'll train you. We like great people here. We like great problem solvers here, and we will work with you so that you can learn how to be excellent here. Language like that right at the beginning of your job advertisement causes a whole host of the job population to now apply that didn't before, meaning you can pick the absolute best people. Having said that, it's a job advertisement. It's not a job description. Stop posting job descriptions on websites for people to apply to. It is an advertisement. This is sales. It is not 1955. A job is not a gift. You are not doing someone a favor by putting up an open rec. If that is your mindset, get over yourself. It hasn't been that way since before I was born. So if that's how you grew up, that strategy has been failing you your entire life. Today's your light bulb moment. A job isn't a gift. It is a contract between two people. Both of you are giving something. Both of you are taking something. And from that standpoint, as an employer, you are the one initially in more pain than the employee. Make sure you are selling your company well and that your job advertisement represents the type of human, the company, the culture, the values, and the work accurately and attractively. I have read many of your job postings. They are not attractive. They might be passable. They're not attractive. Go make them pretty. Dovetailing on the fact that I know many of you probably still won't really have a job advertisement that is as attractive as it could be, because that's hard and there's a lot of science behind that. Well, where's the next best place to go? What would you do for new clients? What is the single biggest resource every single one of you have ever had for new clients since the beginning of this industry, full stop, at any size? Referrals, right? New clients getting referred is the single biggest incoming stream all MSPs and most vendors have. Guess what, friends? It's the same thing for employees. You have employees. Those employees have friends. They hang out with other nerds, okay? Nerds do that. They're already where the employees are. Ask them first, because here's the thing. This isn't foolproof, but generally speaking, if the people that work for you like, match your core values, and represent what good looks like, most of the time, the people they directly associate with and are willing to put their name behind as a recommendation also exemplify some of those characteristics. Use your existing team as a referral network for their friends at other roles, places in the world that want a job in tech. Everybody knows somebody who wants a job in tech. So if you ask that question and everybody on your team kind of looks down and nobody comes up with any ideas, maybe it's not because they don't know anybody. Maybe it's because they don't want to refer anybody to work there. This one's going to seem a little silly, but is your social media, whatever your MSP is doing or your vendor is doing on social media, is that also representing why I would want to work for you? I don't mean that you're advertising jobs on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I simply mean, does your brand persona and the way you talk about your products and services, besides simply attracting a particular type of ICP of client, is it going to align with a particular ICP of human? And odds are it's not, especially if you're working with one of the many wonderful content creation companies that support our space. It's likely been designed to be a curated track that will get you a very, very, very particular type of repeatable appointment for calls. All I'm tossing out here, do not deviate from whoever your sales and marketing process plan is, but have some awareness about, is that material actually representing your brand persona? And if it's not representing it on social media, well, your prospective employees are going to look you up before they go give you their valuable time for interviews. They're going to see that relatively dry and canned marketing, and, well, it won't stick out very much to them. Now, this one, I think, is going to be one of those things that sounds obvious, but for something that sounds obvious, so many of you get this wrong. You are an employer. It is 2025. I can work for anyone I want on the planet from this chair, and you can hire anybody you want on the planet from your chair. I've hammered home the point repeatedly. You need to sell the job to people. How about you start thinking critically about your benefits? This is not a talk about the quality of hard benefits, although that is important. I understand, and many reasonable employee prospects understand, that not every business of every size can afford to give every hard benefit. Everybody can't pay 100% health insurance at a 5-person company, but that's not the benefits I mean. Those benefits are important, but there are other benefits to working for you. There are benefits, there are soft benefits that likely are unique to working for you. What are they? And if you don't know off the top of your head, well, how is a prospect gonna know that? Every single small business has core values, core behaviors, and a culture, and a methodology with which we treat each other internally. All of that is a benefit. And it's important to think about how you can summarize that succinctly and clearly and with integrity, because that will be a major deciding factor if I have 2 otherwise equal opportunities I'm applying for. And there is a subset of people who are going to apply to work to you where that's going to speak to them. They're going to like that. Think about that. Survey your existing staff about that. Really put some effort into figuring out, what about our company? Not a hard benefit, not a paycheck benefit, but what are some of the benefits to working here that maybe we don't all talk about? And that brings us to, have some integrity and do what you say. Some of these ideas that we came up with in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s around sort of interview games, the sort of employer-employee relationship, all I'm saying here is don't play games and do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, the same way you would with a client. Being able to display integrity right away around small things tells a possible candidate that you're not full of shit and you're likely to display integrity around everything. And that's kind of important to employees just in general. It doesn't mean that you're always going to do what I want or always be able to give me what I want. It doesn't mean that the job won't someday go away because of factors outside of your control, but it does mean that I can at least trust a little bit that your word is good. And You would want that for me, so you need to do that. Be honest. Post the salary range, the hourly range accurately on the description. Post the hours of work accurately on the description. Post any additional shifts accurately on the description. If you say you're going to call me back for an interview by a certain time, do that. If you say an interview is at a certain time, show up on time. Don't play games. Just do what you say you're going to do. That's it. It's that simple. And the last thing, this is definitely not exclusive to MSPs. All small businesses could learn from this. This is a sales position. Hiring is sales. You are selling, and you want to have an ICP and a persona for that buyer who is going to come and basically then sell themselves back to you. You need to attract the best people. And just like with buying anything else, what's a smart consumer do? I read, I research consumer reports, the Amazon reviews, whether they're AI generated or not, I at least try. Everyone does. If your employee that you're hiring is basically under the age of 40, they have exclusively grown up in a world where this is probably the only way they have shopped for anything ever. And if they're under the age of 25, absolutely they have only grown up reading the comments first on everything. Given that the 100% of people you're going to hire have grown up either only doing research or reading the comments before they buy, where are your reviews and comments? How many of you have a Glassdoor or an Indeed or whatever other site completely devoid of any employee interaction? Come on, people. Encourage your staff to go on there and review you openly and honestly. And if you don't like the feedback, that platform is not the place to go arbitrate that. Holy shit. The fact that I need to say that in 2025, if somebody leaves you a negative employee review, let's be reasonable. If somebody leaves you a review you don't like, but otherwise is not, inflammatory and defamatory, do not go arbitrate it on the fucking public platform. What is wrong with you? Don't do that. Shut up. That is their lived experience. That's still better than nothing, than no engagement. If somebody genuinely does roast you on one of these platforms, rather than getting mad and going and fighting them on the platform, which you're probably going to do anyways, have some self-reflection that there's probably a reason they felt compelled to post that. A good employer is not going to have all 5-star reviews, but they're probably going to average somewhere at like 3.5 and up. You won't know until you ask them. So go and ask all your staff to review you honestly. Direct them to the platform you want them to do it on. Let them know why you are asking them this, because as you hire new people, you want them to be able to get an accurate picture of what work looks like. Tell your staff honestly, if you think you're a great place to work, that you think you're a great place to work, and you're hoping that they think so too. Give the feedback and then see what happens. I think you'll be surprised. In most cases, if somebody's been working for you for a while, whether it's because they just need the money or because they really, really like working there, we have options, my friends. Like, most of us now don't have to work for you. We are on some level choosing to work for you. I think you will be surprised that most of the feedback you get, if not glowing, will at least be pretty decent. Have a great Monday, everybody. The problem isn't that no one wants to work anymore. That's been the problem every decade for over 100 years. The problem is you have no idea how to find the people that want to work for you.